Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Gayle Carson. Welcome to Living Regret Free, a program that shows you how to live a better and more joyful life. As an added bonus, I invite you to listen to an introduction to my Mindset Matters program, which ties into this so well. Go to www.sobmindset.com. It's free, and I know you will enjoy it. If you'd like to contact me personally, drop me a line at gaylecarson13@gmail.com or go to my website, www.spunkyoldbroad.com, and sign up for my weekly newsletter. Hi, everyone. I have a terrific guest for you today, and her name is Dr. Nicole Marcione. She's a body brain longevity advisor and has been teaching Pilates since 2006. She has a PhD from USC's Division in Biokinesiology and Physical Therapy, and her research focuses on mind body exercise effects on cognition and mobility as we age. Dr. Nicole has a BS in lifespan health and an MS in gerontology from USC. She's presented her research and her workshops all over the world on longevity, brain health, and Pilates. She is the founder of Integrative Aging, a company specializing in designing bio-individual strategies for high performers wanting to live long, fulfilled, energetic lives. Her hope is to inspire others to be enthusiastic about bringing health and well-being into their own lives. Folks, I met Nicole at a conference that we were both attending, and she very graciously allowed me to slip into line because I was like, where is the end of this line? And she said, well, just come on here. So it was very nice. So Nicole, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. And I was just thinking about how the circumstances we met under and what a different world that was just a couple months ago.
True, because all the conferences that I'm attending now, which I have one today and tomorrow, I had one yesterday, are all being virtual, and they are much harder, believe it or not, on the body because most of them are based on the West Coast and I'm on the East Coast, so it goes into the wee hours. But now, the interesting thing is to get to you and what you're doing is that you are in your early 40s,
Yes.
and yet you're interested in longevity and you're interested in brain health. So what brought you to all of that?
Yeah, it's been a long journey, but basically I started teaching Pilates about 15 years ago, and a lot of my clients were older adults. And so I started getting interested in this interaction between aging and physical activity and how both can affect our physical performance as well as our cognitive performance. And so that really piqued my interest to go back to school and do a deeper study. And then I went into research and wound up spending about 6 years finishing that up with my PhD. And what's come out of it is basically when it all comes down to what's said and done is four pillars or what I call the four pillars of longevity. And these are movement, nutrition, restoration, which would include things like sleep and meditation, and then connection, which is connection to ourselves, to others, to a higher purpose or meaning, and also to nature. So if we incorporate these four pillars of longevity, then we're really going to set ourselves up for a rich and inspiring life. And similar to a retirement account, you can start saving for retirement when you're 60, but it's not going to do you as much good as if you start when you're in your 20s or 30s. And so I want to encourage people who, yes, we can make differences in our lives in our 60s and 70s and 80s, but even more so if we start earlier. And so that's kind of that mission behind working with people at all ages, but really talking to those in their 30s and 40s, because that's where we can start with that good foundation. But let me just say, when I first met you, for those of you who have never met Dr. Gayle in person, wow, I cannot believe how full of energy and vibrancy and life, you are so inspiring to me, and I hope to be just like you, when I reached the same age, I think you even had a birthday
Yeah,
while you were
I'm
doing the
82
conference.
now. I'm 82 now, and I did an hour of Zumba this morning. I did it from an online program, and I do an hour every day of working out in some way. I shift it depending on, I do weights one day, and I do core, and I do, different things. But every day is an hour workout. Normally, I do 2 hours, but the other hour normally is at a gym for a class. I do an hour routine, and then I do an hour class. Well, there's no class now. So the classes I'm taking are online, and so I do an hour every day. So thank you very much for saying that.
Yeah, I mean, you're a true living, walking testimonial to these four pillars of longevity. Like, I mean, for you to have the ability to travel as much as you do and to speak and to, do all the things, like if you weren't so physically active and taking care of yourself in those ways, I'm sure it would be a much different situation you'd be in right now at 82.
Well, it's interesting. There's a lot of things I've gone through. I don't know if you know, I'm a 4-time breast cancer survivor. As a matter of fact, I'm on chemo right now, but I just keep going no matter what. So I guess the next question I need to ask you is the best exercise for our brains. Because, you mentioned something about, we should start this in our 30s and 40s, which of course I've been active all my life. But, when you are in your 20s and 30s, especially, you don't think about ever really growing old. You think
Hmm.
all those people, fuddy-duddies. But then as you get into your late 40s is when you really start thinking about, wow, 50 is just around the corner. But it's important from whenever to start taking care of yourself. So tell us some of the best exercises for our brains.
Yeah, perfect. Well, first, I want to encourage everyone who's listening that the best exercise is the one you're going to enjoy and be consistent with. So I can tell you to do a specific type of exercise, but if you hate it, you're not going to do it and it's not going to be consistent and then you won't see any benefits. So that's my first caveat always is do what you enjoy and that you'll be able to stick with. But on top of that, if you can add on what I have termed cognitively complex physical activities, that's a mouthful. I'll repeat it. Cognitively complex physical activities. So, what does that mean? These are activities where your brain must be engaged with your body while you're doing it. So, for example, if you're on a treadmill watching TV, or reading a book, your brain is engaged with those activities, but it's not really engaged with your body walking on the treadmill because that's pretty automatic. So I would not say that's a cognitively complex physical activity. On the other hand, something like dance or tennis or Pilates, surfing, skiing, Tai Chi, like all of these forms of exercise, you are only able to accomplish the task at hand if your brain is completely engaged with what your body is doing. So, for example, Gail, when you do your Zumba class, that has a ton of different steps. You have a rhythm, you have a tempo, you have music, you're following the teacher. So there's all of these things going on that are so much more than just your body
Well, I
moving.
noticed that this morning, Nicole, because I'm not usually a Zumba person because my knees are bad, but I wanted to do cardio and I found that not having the gym open, because the gym in my building isn't open either,
Mm-hmm.
that I can't do the treadmill or I can't do the bike. And I don't do high impact. So I thought, well, let's just go and see what happens with the Zumba class. So and I found what I was doing, because I was a dancer. I started out as a dancer. So I found that I was dissecting the steps that they were doing so that I could follow them. And I saw that if they did a pattern like 1-2-2, 2-2-1, or something like that, I started analyzing what they were doing, which is exactly what you're talking about. And I used my brain, and I think I did too much Zumba this morning. But I did do that, and that's exactly what I did. So how is this brain health and our mental wellness all connected to our gut? Because sometimes people don't see the connection or don't understand what that connection is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question. So our gut and our brain are connected through what's called the gut-brain axis, and this is through certain structures like the vagus nerve. Listeners can look that up later. Also through our immune system and through our bloodstream. And what's interesting, and just in the last like 5 years, there's been research demonstrating that our gut is really in charge of how we feel mentally, and that 95% of our serotonin is made in our gut. So if you haven't heard, I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with serotonin. It's the feel good hormone, the happy chemical, it's called as well. And 95% of that is made in our gut. So if our gut is out of balance, then it's not going to make it up to our brain in order for our brains to use this to keep our mental health in a good state. Our gut also makes other important neurotransmitters such as dopamine, which is how we feel and process pleasure, as well as another neurotransmitter called GABA, G-A-B-A, which is an inhibitory neurotransmitter, meaning it inhibits stress and increases calmness in our everyday life. And so again, if we go back to our gut health, if we're eating a lot of junk, if we're not eating healthy foods that help to feed our good bacteria, those are called prebiotics. You're probably familiar with probiotics. All of these things are very helpful in keeping our gut flora in a happy state. And so when they're happy, then we're happy because they control a lot of the functions, not only in our brain, but as well as throughout our body. And more, I think we'll be seeing this in the next few years with more and more research coming out on how important it is to have our gut health in check in order to keep our brain health and our mental wellness at an optimal state.
Well, that brings me to what we put into our gut. And I know that I don't always eat what most dietitians would think as proper eating. I don't snack at all. That's a good thing. I don't snack. I'm not a snacker, but I do eat, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I like, I'm not a vegetarian, and I do like a variety of things. I do like some pastas. I do like, I love eggplant parmesan. I love,
Who
I
doesn't?
I love, there's things that, I like a nice piece of steak. I like chicken. I don't like fish. I'm not a fish person, but I'm one of those people that, in fact, it was funny years, and I'm talking years ago when I used to date, the guys would say, "Oh, I love taking you to dinner." And I'd say, "Why?" And they say, "Because you eat everything. I take so many women to dinner and they order an expensive meal and they just pick at it. You really enjoy your meal." And I have always enjoyed my meals. So tell us what the proper foods to eat would be.
Yeah, so perfect question and you had the perfect answer. There is so much information out there on what the best way of eating is. And really, there's no one answer because what's good for you, Gayle, might be bad for me and vice versa. It highly, highly depends on that microbiome that we were just talking about that we have inherited from generations before us. And so someone might do really well on a vegetarian diet, but another person might need a paleo or higher protein. And so what I always encourage people is to figure out, and it takes some time to figure out what is the best way of eating for you. Now, some people can do that on their own. Some people might hire a nutritionist or a health coach. But with that being said, and really knowing that we're all bio-individual, meaning my biology is much different from anyone else's, and so I'm going to have to figure out what works best for me. Having said that, in general, a diet that is low in sugar, okay, if we can cut out as much processed sugar as we can, is going to be the most helpful, as well as increasing our greens and cruciferous vegetables. So these across the board, no matter how one eats, you want to make sure you're eating enough greens and veggies, because these are full of phytonutrients and antioxidants and fiber. And so all of these things are going to help create an optimal state for both our brain and our bodies. Also, I would say most of us probably need to increase our healthy fat, meaning things like extra virgin olive oil, omega-3s, which are found in fatty fish, such as salmon, mackerel, anchovies, sardines, and herring, as well as avocados and nuts. So these are things that are very good for our brains and our bodies. And I know sometimes people are afraid of fat. They think that eating fat will make them fat. And actually, eating sugar and highly processed carbs are what is going to make us fat and unhealthy. So do not be afraid of eating things like avocados, extra virgin olive oil, and things like that. Nuts are really good. There's a lot of studies like with the Mediterranean diet, and how good and beneficial those are for health outcomes such as cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cancer, as well as cognitive impairments and dementia.
Well, it's interesting, of what you mentioned. I don't eat a lot of processed sugar, so that's good. And I'm not a big vegetable eater, but I've been getting these meals on wheels, and every one of them has either beans or broccoli or asparagus or carrots. And so I've started eating those vegetables, and I like them. These meals on wheels, I thought they were going to be horrible, but they actually are very good, and so and very nutritious. So that has been a very good thing. The other thing that I wanted to ask you about was supplements. Now, I used to take a lot of supplements. I really was a supplement freak. I used to take maybe 20, 25 a day. But since I'm on chemo, my oncologist wants me just on the chemo and doesn't want me to take anything else. So I just want you to express your feelings about supplements.
Yeah, so before I talk about that, I just want to make sure people know I'm not an MD doctor. I'm a PhD doctor, so I'm not a clinician, and I won't be giving out medical advice, but I highly recommend everyone do some sort of lab testing so that they have their blood work tested so that they know what exactly they could be deficient in. And not just deficient, but really look at the range. So let's say there's a range between 1 and 50 for a vitamin that you're missing. And that range, maybe you're at a number 5. And so the doctor says, oh, well, you're within the range, but the range is from 1 to 50. So you're obviously very low in that range. So you want to make sure you're at optimal levels, and that you would do through testing. Most human beings in this country are deficient in vitamin D. So that's probably one supplement that most people are going to be encouraged to take by their physician. Of course, unless they're like you, Gayle, undergoing some sort of medical treatment. And so always defer back to what your doctor says. But vitamin D is one. Also, going back to the healthy fats, an omega-3 is really good for cardiovascular disease as well as our brains. And so if you're not eating a lot of fatty fish throughout the week, or if you're a vegetarian and don't eat fish, you can find omega-3s in flaxseed, chia seeds, and hemp seeds, but you have to make sure they're ground because our stomachs don't digest if they're in their whole seed form. So just make sure they're ground up. But these omega-3 supplements, if you're not eating enough in your whole foods, then you would want to take one. And then finally, I think a probiotic, just going back to our gut health discussion and mental wellness, to have a high quality probiotic, but also you need to look at the strains, because some probiotic strains of bacteria are specific to either like diarrhea or constipation or mental, like anxiety or stress. So now researchers are finding that certain strains of probiotics are good for certain disorders or health issues that we have. And so to realize not all probiotics are created the same, and even high quality ones, if they're the wrong strain, you want to make sure, if you're looking to lower your stress levels, you don't necessarily need a probiotic that's going to help you with constipation. So knowing what's in the bottle that you're taking is very, very important.
Well, you also mentioned something called blue zones, and I've never heard of those. So tell us what they are and what we can learn from them, because that's a new one on me.
Oh, really? Okay. I'm so excited to share. So for blue zones, down about, I don't know, maybe like 15 years now, 10 years. I think in 2000, a person, his name is Dan Buettner. He is a journalist for National Geographic, and he went on assignment to find the longest living people on Earth. And as him and his crew were going around the country or the world looking for these people, they found 5 areas in the globe. And what they did is on the map, they circled these areas with a blue pen, and they called them blue zones. And what they found was an extraordinary amount of centenarians, so people who lived past 100 in these communities. And so the 5 communities that they found were Icaria, Greece, Sardinia, Italy, Nicoya region of Costa Rica, Okinawa, Japan, and then Loma Linda, California, which for those of us who live in LA, you think, what in the world? Why is Loma Linda, California on there? But these were the 5 places that really stood out for those who lived to be over 100 without a lot of disease. And so what they found, a lot of them had in common were that the diets were mostly plant-based, not completely vegetarian, but meat was eaten sparingly. They also had a very strong sense of community and belonging, and this was either because family time was very important and multi-generational family time, such as we see in like Italy and Greece, or they had a really great social support, such as in Loma Linda. The most of that community is Seventh-day Adventist, and so they had a strong support through their church. They also all had a daily physical activity, some type. It didn't have to be extreme or super strenuous, but they all had some sort of daily physical activity, some sort of labor, walking, gardening. And then finally, they had a high amount of healthy fats, whether that was extra virgin olive oil or nuts. And so I highly encourage any of your listeners, if they haven't, to look up.
Well, I knew these things actually, but I didn't know, Nicole, they were called blue zones.
Oh, okay.
I have read about these people in these communities, but I had no idea that they were blue zones. So now I know. And yeah, I agree with you. I think that is all a part of it. I think a lot of it is the community, the olive oil, the way they live their life. Absolutely. But we're coming to the end of the show. So I need people to know how to reach you. And I know that you've got a gift for them. So tell us how to reach you and what you have for them.
Well, thank you so much. Yes. So you can reach me on Facebook, Nicole Marcione. On Instagram, my handle is @Dr. and my name, Nicole Marcione, so @Dr. Nicole Marcione. Also, my website is integrativeaging.com, and that's spelled www.integrativeaging.com. So integrative aging. And I have a special gift. So I have an online course called Anti-Aging is BS, because there's really no such thing as anti-aging. We want to always age optimally. And so if you use the code Dr. Gayle, DRGAYLE, in all capitals, your listeners get 50% off of that course online. They can find it on my website. So, and if anyone has any questions, they can email me, Nicole@integrativeaging.com. And I would just love to connect with all of you and help and be of service in any way.
Well, and I think you need to also, folks, you need to know how to spell her name. It's Nicole. Nicole. Marcione is Marcione. So if you're looking for her, that's what you will find. You can go to her website, integrativeaging.com. She's got her Anti-Aging is BS online course. You'll get 50% off if you mention Dr. Gayle in caps. And wow, this has been fantastic, Nicole. And of course, if you guys want to find me, I am at spunkyoldbroad.com. If you are over 50 and you want to join my new Facebook group, it's facebook.com/groups/virtual SOB club. So we'd love to have you. Nicole, this has been very interesting, and everything you've said is common sense. So,
Right.
So there's no reason for anybody to say, I can't do this, because it is common sense and it's who you are. So thank you so much for being with us today. Folks, take advantage of what she has to offer. And again, I'm so glad we had a chance to meet. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks so much, Dr. Gayle.
Hi, this is Dr. Gayle, and I wanted you to know I have a whole bunch of other things to offer you. If you go to spunkyoldbroad.com, you will see an array of SOB stuff for sale and all our latest products and additions. If you're interested in getting on TV, I have a brand new course, Get on TV. And if you want to start your own business, you'll want my SOB Guide to Business Success. I know you'll love them all. I guarantee it.
Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. I choose my guests carefully, so if you have someone you'd like me to interview, please drop me a line at gaylecarson13@gmail.com. In the meantime, check out my intro program, Mindset Matters, at www.sobmindset.com. See you next week.